Hey guys, it's Janie. Welcome back to the Crafting Bookworm. Today it's time for my January wrap-up. Okay, welcome back everybody. Welcome to all my new subscribers. Thanks you guys so much. I appreciate you. So in the month of January, I ended up reading 7 books. Now granted, one of these books was a children's book, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's just get started here. The first book I read was Big Tree by Brian Selznick. I've been reading his books for a long time. He's right around a middle grade writer, and usually with his books he has part text and part illustration. And usually the text part is telling one story, the illustrations is telling another one, and they come together in the end. Great illustrations. He does all that stuff himself. Well, in Big Tree, we've got a big mother tree, and what the story we're seeing is the seedlings, okay? And we've got Louise and Merwin are 2 of her seedlings. Mother Tree always spoke to her seedlings about how she wanted them to find a place to take root and grow to be big, tall, strong trees like Mother Tree is. So they were always looking forward to that. They thought they were getting closer and closer to being able to take root somewhere and then grow up to be really big, tall, strong trees. Well, a fire breaks out and the dinosaurs go pushing through this forest and knocks down Mother Tree. And so Louise and Merwin are just floating around. They get knocked loose, they're floating around, and they're trying to make their way, trying to find a place where they can take root. And this is really just a story about how they make it through all these things and what they have to go through to find their final home. It was just a really cute story. They're huge books. They're 500 plus pages, but you get so drawn into the illustrations and the story that he's telling that you just flip through the pages in no time. Fantastic story. Not my favorite by Brian Selznick, but it was a really cute story. The next book I read was All Is Well. I ordered this book, just ordered it not that long ago. It was by Frank Peretti. He is one of my favorite Christian fiction writers. So I'm like, oh, this story sounds good. Well, when I got the book, it ended up being a children's book. And I'm like, oh, what? This is a miracle of Christmas in July. And we're following Daniel and his mom, and they're just out of money. They can't pay their rent. They're going to have to move. Well, Daniel thinks he's going to help mom, and he's going to sell anything he can sell, his toys, and even a box of Christmas ornaments. So Daniel sets out to go door to door and try and sell these items to make some money. He comes upon this ornament that says All Is Well on it, and somebody actually buys it, and that's all I'm going to tell you. And there's a big, huge story behind it, and it's just really a great inspirational story that you can tell your children. Absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. Oh, and by the way, I rated Big Tree 5 stars as well. The next book that I read was The Case for Christ, and this is by Lee Strobel. I really was interested in reading this. My sister first told me about this book, and this is a story of a writer who writes for the Chicago Tribune, and his name is Lee Strobel. And he's going around, he's trying to figure out, he's an atheist. He wants to find out everything he can about Christ, all the stories that have been told, all the things that these experts have to prove the existence of Christ, the most important historical figure. And he goes and talks to all these experts who have doctorates from different schools, and gradually his atheism turns into faith, and he becomes a Christian. And it was a very powerful story to me. There was a lot of things that I had not realized that was brought to light in this book, and I just really, really enjoyed it. It is a book that you really have to follow. There are some slow parts, but for the most part, I absolutely loved it. And one of the things that I really admired was that Mr. Strobel did not get irate at any point. He let these people talk and prove their theories, and prove the, well, you can't really say prove the theories, prove what they've been taught. And that is the ongoing thing. Science can't prove stuff. The Christians over here can't prove stuff. And it's just, it's a back and forth thing. It's always a back and forth thing, where we have our Bible, which tells it all. And I would be lost if I didn't have my Bible. There's just, you get so much out of it, and you learn so many different things just from reading the Bible. And when you read the Bible, you will have questions, but I feel like if you continue to read, everything will become clear to you. So it was a really great story. Like I said, a lot of things that I didn't realize that I learned and was brought to light with this book. Really enjoyed it. 5 stars for that. The next book that I read was Before and After by C.P. Cabanas. Courtney, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly. I've known Courtney on YouTube for quite a while. I think we maybe even started our channels at the same time. But she is an author, and I had seen, I watched her videos and saw her talking about, the books that she's written, and Before and After really sounded like something that I wanted to read. And in this book, I don't know how you really pronounce this name, Valancy is how I was saying it. She is heading home for Thanksgiving holidays to visit with her sister, and she gets stuck at the airport, like delays upon delays, bad weather, this and that. And her old friend Will, they were best friends growing up, they just sit and they have a nice chat, and they get to relive some of those moments that they cherished, both of them together. And the story just kind of goes on from there. I don't want to give a whole lot away because I think it would be easy to. Very wholesome romance. Exactly what I'm looking for these days. I love romance, and I just want it to be wholesome. I don't want all the extras that a lot of romances have. A lot of these authors think they gotta throw in all these spicy bits, and that's just not my forte. I know how it all works. I don't need to read about it. So I ended up rating this book 4 stars. And then I've Said Love was the next book, which is the companion to Before and After. And absolutely love that one. I'm not going to talk about that one because this one is talking about Valerie, who was in this first book, who was a friend of Valancy's. So I'm not going to give any details on that book. You could, however, read them however you wanted to. If you don't want to read Before and After, you could definitely read I've Said Love. And you'd probably be fine. So, yeah, 2 very great romances. Courtney, I loved the stories. They were fantastic. Both of those got 4 stars. The next book that I read was Deadfall by Robert Liparulo. Robert Liparulo is another Christian fiction writer. I just been feeling like I've been wanting to read some Christian fiction. Now, I was really surprised by this book because of the amount of violence that was in it, considering that he is a Christian fiction writer. There's a lot of good versus evil, but not a lot of God planting in the story, if that makes sense. So there are little statements that are made and things like that, but there's a lot of violence. But what you will not find in this book is one single solitary cuss word. Nothing. No F-bombs, nothing in this book. And I really appreciated this. In this story, we're following 4 characters: Hutch, Terry, Phil, and David. Now they have someone drop them off into this remote Canadian wilderness because they just need to get away. They're dealing with divorce. Someone's dealing with bankruptcy. Another one lost their job. And the 4th one is dealing with some depression. So they figured, hey, let's go get away, do some hunting, some fishing, and just forget about all this stuff that is going on in our lives. What they didn't know is there is other people in this wilderness who are up to no good and want to do away with them. And this tiny little town, remote town that is just not even on the maps, and they just want to obliterate it. 2 of the stories, there's like 2 stories going on in this book, and they come together and meet in the middle. And let me tell you guys, this was intense. I read this with my sister, and I felt so many different emotions in this story. I was angry and frustrated, and the satisfaction needed to come. Like, I needed some satisfaction. I needed these people to be put in their place, and it finally does, but not for quite a while. Like, there's a lot of intensity, and I was like, okay, come on. I need, something good to happen. Always seemed like it was always bad things. And it doesn't make you want to put the book down, though. I'm reading this through. I'm going to find out what happens. I did find it to be a bit anticlimactic at the end. But still a really, really good story. My sister said that she had to find something very lighthearted to read after reading Deadfall. And I was the same way, because it was just so intense. It's like in your face intense. And yeah, it's a great book, especially without all the cuss words and all the F-bombs and all that stuff in there. And because of that violence and the anticlimactic ending, I gave it 4 stars. It could have been 5 if there would have been, a little bit more good, because there was just so much bad. It felt like. But it's definitely worth the read. I really do like Robert Liparulo's writing. I also read Comes a Horseman by him. And he's got another one called Germ, which is a bio-warfare kind of story that I really want to read as well. So, but if you feel like religion being shoved down your throat when you read a Christian fiction, you won't feel that with Robert Liparulo, I don't feel like. If that makes sense. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. The last book that I read was Frostheart by Jamie Littler. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that name. But you guys, this was a fabulous book. It was a pretty big book for middle grade. And it was very good for a middle grade. There was a lot of action going on in this book. And I have the other 2. It's a trilogy, I believe. And the other 2 I had gotten from our used bookstore. And then discovered that neither one of those was the first book. So I ended up ordering Frostheart from Better World Books. And it came from the UK, and it had the right cover, and I was really happy. It had a little bit of damage, like one of the pages comes out, which I'll have to fix that. But you guys, the story was fabulous. We're following Ash, who is this young boy, and he is called a song weaver. And he's been forbidden to sing his songs because people don't understand his craft. And they feel what he can do is calm the creatures. Like, they're on a boat. That's the story. They're on a boat, And there's these leviathans, or hurtlers they're called, or these creatures that live up under the snow and ice, because they're not actually sailing on water, they're on ice. They're called sleighs. They look like big ships. And he can calm them as long as his mind is calm, so that they don't intercept these sleighs and kill the people. Well, he doesn't always do it properly, and things go amiss, and this is the only things that people see most of the time, and they can't see past the wrong to see the good. So he's forbidden to use it. He's put on this sleigh called the Frost Heart. He's got a Yeti guardian. His name is Tobu, and he's trying to teach him the calm side of song weaving. And then you got another guy named Shard who's trying to teach him you got to be fierce. And so he's kind of caught in the crossfire between the two. And he's trying to find himself, and he's trying to find out what he can do properly in the proper ways. And that's pretty much the story. You see him struggle, and then you see him get stronger and figure things out. And it's just really a great story. I was really impressed. And right now I'm reading Wrong Place, Wrong Time, but with my sisters. But when I finish that, I think I'm going to go to book 2 in the Frost Heart series, because I really, really enjoyed it. I ended up rating that one 5 stars. So those are the books that I read, you guys, in January, and really had a great reading month. I don't know what really changed for me, because in the beginning of January I got really sick and didn't read a whole lot. But yeah, it all just came around, and I mean, it helped that one was a children's book, which took me all of about 20 minutes to read. But yeah, overall I had a great reading month. Now, if you've read any of these books that I have talked about today, let me know down in the comments below so we can have a chit chat on those. Or you can let me know in the comments, what did you read in January? How was your reading month? And I hope everybody had found great books to read. But yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.